In the bustling alleys of Paris, 1904, Rosalind Rosie Whittaker was accused of the inconceivable, murdering her two fellow treasure hunters, Isabella L. Ivor and Naomi Joanne, within the labyrinthine catacombs beneath the city. The tale she unfolded was so sinister, it convinced many that she had lost her mind. Those who believed Rosie's account never dared to venture into those parts of the catacombs again. Her story was retold to Magistrate Eleanor Peyton, whose reputation for fairness and honesty was unparalleled. The legend was thus passed down through generations, rooted in the credibility of Magistrate Peyton. Isabella and Naomi were not just my fellow treasure hunters, they were my comrades, my confidants. The story I recount may seem far-fetched, but it's the truth. I was there, while others were safely away from those cursed depths. Even now, as I narrate this, I wonder how fate spared me that night. The streets of Paris had been sodden from weeks of relentless rain. We decided to delve deeper into the catacombs, hoping that the treasures we sought might lie within untouched chambers. During that fateful day, we ventured deeper than ever before. We navigated the dark, damp tunnels for hours, with lanterns guiding our path. As nightfall approached, we decided to set up a temporary camp in one of the larger chambers. While the echoing drips of water were our only companions, we wanted to be sure we would hear if any wanderers, lost or dangerous, came our way. After settling in, Naomi declared she would explore a nearby stream to gather some water. After what felt like hours, her frantic cries echoed through the catacombs. "Rosie, Isabella, come quickly." Dropping our tasks, we hastened to where we last saw her. On reaching a naturally formed balcony overlooking the stream, we found Naomi pale and trembling. "What alarmed you so, Naomi?" I questioned. Turning her ghostly face to us, she whispered, "When I neared the water, I saw them. Many of them. They vanished into the stream as soon as they noticed me. They seemed almost like petite dolls glowing faintly. It was eerie." Isabella and I exchanged skeptical glances. "Naomi, it might just have been reflections. Or maybe you're just exhausted. Let's head back," I suggested. But as we retraced our steps, Naomi, her voice quivering, insisted, "They weren't mere reflections. I've never seen anything like it." Seeing the genuine fear in her eyes unsettled me. I couldn't help but wonder if the catacombs held more secrets than we'd ever imagined. I was still trying to process what I was seeing when Christian shouted, "Look!" He pointed towards a set of oddly shaped tracks leading away from Claude's lifeless body. They weren't the tracks of any animal we recognized, and they certainly weren't human. They were disturbingly elongated, almost as if whatever made them walked on its toes. We hastily decided to pack up and leave immediately. Even in broad daylight, every rustling leaf, every bird's song made us jump, anticipating some unknown horror springing from the underbrush. I could feel eyes on us, watching, tracking, waiting. Our paranoia grew with every step. "We need to find higher ground, somewhere we can see everything around us," Christian suggested, his voice quivering. We climbed to the nearest ridge and took a moment to catch our breath. From our vantage point, we scanned the woods below. Suddenly, a movement caught my eye. Several pale, child-sized figures were darting between the trees, moving with an unnatural swiftness. Their limbs were elongated, and they moved in a way that was too fluid to be human. But it was their eyes, a luminescent shade of blue, that haunted me the most. "We need to warn the town," I whispered. "No one should come out here." We both knew this was bigger than just a tragedy befalling our friend. We were dealing with something that wasn't part of our world, something we couldn't explain. The journey back was a blur. Fear lent us speed, and we hardly rested. Once we reached the town, we were met with disbelief. Some said we concocted the tale to cover a dispute gone wrong, while others whispered about old legends, tales their grandparents used to share of forest spirits and guardians. But we knew what we had seen, and nothing could convince us otherwise. We left that town, vowing never to return to those mountains, always haunted by what might lurk there, waiting for the next unsuspecting traveler. The fate of Claude was never truly unraveled, becoming another forgotten mystery. But for Christian and me, it was a chilling reminder that some places, some stories, are best left untouched. I immediately grabbed my rifle and turned around, facing the direction from where the murmurs came. What I saw in the dim light of the fire still haunts me to this day. There, just at the edge of the campfire's glow, were several pale, almost translucent figures, resembling small children with disproportionately long limbs. They had hollowed-out eyes that shimmered like the river in moonlight. Their fingers were elongated and had an extra joint, bending in ways a human hand shouldn't. Panicking, I aimed my rifle at the closest one and fired. The bullet passed right through it, as if they were made of mist, causing it to temporarily scatter before reforming again. Their murmuring grew louder, more urgent. Looking down at Christian, I saw his feet and hands tightly wrapped by vines that seemed to emerge from the ground, pulling him towards the forest. Reacting instinctively, I reached for my hunting knife and slashed at the vines, freeing him from their grip. Picking up Christian, who seemed to be in some trance-like state, I mounted one of the mules, leading the other by its reins, and galloped out of the campsite. The strange figures followed, their eerie murmurs echoing in the darkness. They moved swiftly, appearing and disappearing among the trees, like ghostly apparitions. As dawn broke, their presence began to wane, and I pushed on without rest until we reached the edge of the forest, leading into the town. The moment we stepped into the town's boundaries, Christian stirred back to consciousness. Dazed and confused, the townsfolk were both horrified and fascinated by our tale. Many dismissed it as a figment of our imagination, but old Mrs. Wiggins, the town's elder, recounted tales of ancient forest spirits known as the Six-Toed Ones, protectors of sacred ground. They were said to be neither benevolent nor malevolent, but fiercely protective of their territory. She surmised that we had unknowingly camped on one of their sacred sites, and suggested we hold a small ceremony to apologize and ask for forgiveness. With a heavy heart, I agreed, thinking of Claude. Years have passed since that incident, but I've never returned to those mountains. The tale became a cautionary story among prospectors, serving as a grim reminder that there are places in this world humans are not meant to tread. The silence that followed was deafening. The only sound was the gentle murmur of the river, seemingly innocent of the horror it had just witnessed. Without the lantern's light, I was plunged into complete darkness, the only illumination being the fleeting memory of its glow. My heart raced, and my breathing was erratic. Every sense was heightened. I could smell the dampness in the air, feel the coldness of the ground beneath my feet, and hear every little rustle in the bushes. Knowing I couldn't stay put, I grabbed my rifle and slowly moved along the riverbank. Every step was taken with caution, every sound evaluated for threats. The whispers from earlier haunted my thoughts. Hours seemed to pass like days. The fatigue of the ordeal was taking its toll on me, but the fear propelled me forward. The ever-present darkness was suffocating, pressing down on me. Suddenly, I felt the terrain change under my feet. I had reached a clearing, and above me, the clouds had parted, revealing the moon, bathing everything in a pale light. Looking around, I realized I was in a place I recognized, a small meadow where we had once camped during previous expeditions. There was an old cabin nearby, now half collapsed from neglect. I decided to take shelter there for the rest of the night. Inside the cabin, remnants of past inhabitants lingered. A broken chair, a rusty old kettle, and, to my relief, a box of matches. I quickly gathered some dry wood from a corner and lit a small fire. The warmth and light brought a tiny bit of solace, but as the night went on, the whispering returned. This time, they were louder, more pronounced, almost as if they were right outside the cabin. With my rifle in hand, I approached the window and peered out. To my horror, standing in the moonlight, were several figures, their skin glistening, wet from the river, their eyes hollow and lifeless. They began to circle the cabin, their whispers growing more cacophonous. I braced myself, knowing that the battle for survival was far from over, and as dawn approached, The lines between reality and my darkest nightmares began to blur. Bob's harrowing entrance to the sheriff's office was a sight that would forever be imprinted in the memories of those present. His torn attire and bloodied visage bore testament to the horrors he'd witnessed, though the majority of the scratches and wounds were evidently self-inflicted during his desperate escape. The sheriff had a gnawing suspicion that not all the blood was Bob's. Eager to investigate the claims, the sheriff hastily assembled a group to retrieve the bodies of Claude and Christian. As they trudged along the river, the atmosphere grew heavier, especially when they began encountering the eerie six-toed footprints that Bob had described. When they finally stumbled upon the bodies, a hush fell over the search party. The footprints around the deceased and in the river mud bore silent testimony to Bob's tale. But they also discovered Sarah's gear floating downstream, a grim reminder of her fate. Unfortunately, neither Sarah nor the other mollusks were ever found. The town's ensuing trial was swift and unyielding, and Robert Bob Wetter was convicted for the murders. The mystery seemed closed. However, years later, a confession from Judge P.L. Payne unveiled a darker truth. Before his death, he'd recounted the story to a Yakama tribe elder. After a long contemplative silence, the elder spoke. Those were the deeds of the Manajishi, water dwellers who crave human flesh. Especially during high tides, they emerge to feast. Do you dare tread the waters? For more spine-chilling tales, hit the subscribe button.